we'll have Imam Mazhar Patel, who's the Imam at the Islamic Foundation of Peoria. And Imam Mazhar, we are ready to listen to your thoughts on this passage. You're muted right now.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, John, once again for this opportunity to be on this, blessed platform. I thank my colleagues for enlightening us regarding, what they believe or what they feel that the interpretation of this narrative in Holy Scripture is. And from here on, I will commence.
Assalamu alaikum. If you appreciate the content that we're putting out there, do hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Much love and stay blessed.
Bismillah, in the name of God. Alhamdulillah, all praises are due to God. Wassalatu wassalamu ala jami'il anbiya. Peace and salutations be upon all of the prophets and messengers of God. Wa ala man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin, and those who follow righteously upon their paths until the day of reckoning. So interestingly, these days or this season is the season of sacrifice, where we commemorate the sacrifice of Abraham, or as we say in the Arabic language, Ibrahim, of his son, either Ismail or Ishaq, either Ishmael or Isaac. We have Muslim scholars who've gone both ways. And, I'll briefly mention towards the end why I believe why I and actually the majority of Muslim scholars believe it is Ismail through the Quranic narrative. But before I get to that, hopefully I'll go through the passage from Surah As-Saffat, which talks about this whole incident. So I'm going to recite the Arabic language or the Arabic passage, and hopefully you can follow along with the translation. So I'll be sharing my screen. Do you see the screen? Okay. So basically, the chapter is pretty long, but this is technically where the story commences from. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب هب لي من الصالحين فبشرناه بغلام حليم فلما بلغ معه السعي قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين فلما أسلما وتله للجبين وناديناه أن يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إن هذا لهو البلاء المبين وفديناه بذبح عظيم وتركنا عليه في الآخرين سلام على إبراهيم كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنه من عبادنا المؤمنين. So this is the passage from Surah As-Saffat, the chapter of Saffat, which describes, this entire narrative. So as I mentioned, Muslims actually commemorate this season as the season of the sacrifice of Ibrahim or Abraham. And next week, Friday, and following Friday, 3 more days, Muslims worldwide will, sacrifice animals, mainly goat and sheep and cow, and share it with family, the meat, share it with family, friends, those who are in need of this meat, to revive this practice of Abraham. So to just give a little bit of a backdrop regarding Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, Abraham, peace and blessings upon him, and the whole sacrifice, what happened? So in my understanding, the Quranic presentation of the event, it seems to go in line with reason, right? It's very rational, and I'll explain why, right? So Ibrahim, he was longing for a son, and this was evident. This is evident from the passage. Rabbi habli min as-salihin. He constantly asked the Almighty to grant him a pious child. So God gave him glad tidings of a forbearing boy, somebody who's patient, somebody who's pious. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. So now once he got a son, once you get something after a very long time, something that you've always wanted, there's a fear of loss. So for example, after working for many years, I buy a Merc. Now I always have the fear of loss of that Merc or that Mercedes, either in my conscious or subconscious mind. So when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam got the son of his, may it be Ismail or Ishaq, I'll explain why I believe it's Ismail once again, either or, when he got his son, he became extra protective, and he was subconsciously thinking about losing his son. So, you find the natural phenomena amongst, say, pregnant women as well, or somebody who's purchased a very expensive property. Pregnant women, oftentimes they see in their dreams that they're losing their children, or they're having a miscarriage, or something bad is happening to the baby in their womb. So Ibrahim as well, at some point, he saw a dream wherein he saw himself sacrificing his son. And very interestingly, the Quran does not make mention that, this was sort of an order from God. No, rather the Quran makes it very clear that Ibrahim said that I saw a dream. So in many of these cases where a person is perturbed about a certain issue, they will see dreams, they will see flashbacks, or they will see haunting images. So now, what he does is he goes to his son and he says, فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى, think or see what I should do, right? So the son responds by saying, Ya abati if'al ma tu'mar. Do as you are ordered to do. Now, mind you, this is a time where people are actually sacrificing human beings out of devotion for their deities. So it's not out of the norm that Ibrahim sees this dream. So now Ibrahim, at this moment, he thinks it's revelation. And he proposes this idea to his son, who responds by saying, fulfill this revelation. You will find me, God willing, to be among the patient. Now, it doesn't mention anywhere in the Quran that Abraham actually put a knife on the neck of either or Ismail or Ishaq. But when they submitted, what was happening, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَ وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ, when they were prepared now and Abraham put his son on his forehead, right? God called unto Ibrahim before, any sort of negativity occurred. وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَيَّا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. So what Ibrahim does is to present his utmost devotion. He says that, if God has asked me to do this for the sake of his devotion, I will do it. Or at any cost, I'll do it to demonstrate my utmost devotion. So, of course, he doesn't go through the sacrifice because God reveals to him saying that this is not the most adequate sacrifice. Rather, the sacrifice of a lamb or a ram is the most adequate thing to do, or the most adequate sacrifice to make. But look at what God says. قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. Right? You have fulfilled the vision. You had a vision and you tried to fulfill it. Inna كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We thus reward the doers of good. So God is telling Abraham that you have passed any possible test, even if it was not God-given and you assumed it. Now, what is interesting is that God presented a corrective understanding for humanity, that nobody should sacrifice people, right? And if you do wish to sacrifice anything for the sake of God, utilize the God-given resources that you consume at times on a daily basis. And we know in that region, many people were accustomed to, consuming meat a lot. In fact, one of the great imams of Medina, which is a city in modern-day Saudi Arabia, somebody actually objected to him, Imam Malik. He said, "Why do you eat meat every day?" They said, "There's nothing wrong with eating meat every day." So unfortunately now we have a very different circumstance where people at times mistreat the animals. So, Muslims have their own way of, slaughtering or sacrificing animals, just as other faiths do, like the Jewish faith. So indeed, this was a test for Abraham. It was a clear trial. So what God was doing through Abraham was setting a trajectory to change the dynamics of sacrificing human beings. Somebody may ask, God could have just told Abraham to convey to humanity not to sacrifice humans, but it wouldn't make a difference as presenting something practically would do. So sometimes when you say, don't do this, it just doesn't quite, fill the void. So what was an alternative method? God provided a substitution. And since people eat food anyways, since the majority of humanity at that time ate meat anyways, that would be the best route to take when it came to dedicating sacrifices. So that is why God says, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. We ransomed him with a great sacrifice, meaning the son. So salamun ala Ibrahim, peace be upon Abraham. This is how we reward the doers of good. How do we reward the doers of good? In essence, the sacrifice of Abraham is anything but a call to sacrifice human beings. Rather, it is a formula to preserve humanity, even through our devotion. So this is something that Abraham, highlighted in his time. Now, you might ask me, go back to your initial statement about which son do you believe it was? Clearly through the reading of the Quran, for Muslims, it is evident that it's Ismail, the firstborn. And so this was sort of the methodology or the practice at that time, that people would sacrifice their firstborn. So I'll tell you how, from the Quranic understanding, we feel it is Ismail. So Abraham asked God for a son. Rabbi habli min as-salihin, right? فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. We gave him glad tidings of a forbearing boy. And then what follows is, the interactions or the situations that occurred between Ibrahim and this boy. And as we understand in the Arabic language, if you want to introduce a new topic, you bring the letter waw, right? Wa. So later on, as we go on, God says, وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And then we gave Abraham good tidings of Ishaq, a prophet from among the righteous. So later on, God confirms that Ishaq was born to Abraham, but the sacrifice that occurred was, the sacrifice that Abraham went on to do was apparently for the firstborn. So like I go back to my message, this was a feeling that Abraham had. God eradicated the negativities that Abraham was feeling. God told Abraham to show humanity an adequate way of sacrificing and not resorting to human sacrifices. And because of this, we Muslims are thankful. And as humanity, I would say, we are thankful that Abraham presented a bold message, a clear message, an emphatic message of how we can devote ourselves to the Almighty whilst also preserving the humanity around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imam Mazhar. I appreciate your reflections on that, and also appreciated the beauty of that reading in from the Quran. So thank you. What I'd like to do at this point is I'd like us to the panelists to continue the discussion amongst themselves. If they have any comments or observations or questions about what the other panelists have said, now is the time for you to have a discussion amongst the four of you that we all get to listen in on. So I'm looking forward to this. And then after that, we'll proceed to asking some of the questions that before we go on with that, I just want to remind the participants, the people in the Zoom room here, and we also have people watching on Facebook Live. So I just want to thank you for watching on Facebook Live. You unfortunately can't submit questions at this point, but if you would like to ask a question, we'd like you to put it in the chat. There's at the bottom of your screen, you should see a chat. And we would like you to limit that to no more than one or two questions, no more than two questions. And also we'd like those questions to be focused specifically on the topic that we're discussing, the story of Abraham and his son and what happened. So if you want to do that, and then we'll read through those. I'll be looking at them, and we'll choose some of the ones that we think best represent some of the questions we have that are most relevant to the story. So with that being said, panelists, I would love for you to, whoever has something to ask one of the others, please feel free to just sort of take it away as a discussion amongst the four of you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make an important clarification. I actually, just lost the plot when it came to mentioning that point in my, in my presentation here. So through these passages, Muslims or adherents of the Quran, we get comfort and solace through God actually discouraging Abraham from sacrificing his son, and thereby setting a trajectory to, discourage humanity from sacrificing, their children or other human beings.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to, when I really appreciated the comment that you made about, interjecting some humanity and a case study. It's one thing to say, hey, no human sacrifices, but a way of doing that is very profound and painfully profound. To have somebody go through that, I thought that was an interesting way of looking at that. And as I thought about it, it got more profound as I thought of the repercussions of that.
Thank you, Reverend. That is why, I believe that this passage in the Quran is very awe-striking, that God says, "Inna hadha lahu al-bala'ul mubin." Indeed, this was a clear trial, it was a tribulation. Unlike just telling humanity, hey, stop sacrificing human beings. Going through this entire practical phenomena was a definite trial for Abraham and Isaac. Although the Quran clearly doesn't make mention that he actually put the knife, but just going, to that pedestal or going to that area where, people are sacrificed, that is very daunting, to portray. That is a very daunting situation. So even before any of that happened, God discouraged Abraham from going through what he was doing, as I mentioned. And thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone. There's a question here. I think it's wonderful that we hear Ishmael and Ishaq's voice in the Quran. Well, thank you for that. It's always interesting to come across different perspectives and share our thoughts. At the end of the day, any lesson that we get from these passages which benefits us as human beings, as one human family, may it be from the Jewish interpretation or the Muslim interpretation or the Christian interpretation, well, might as well make use of it. We need a lot of goodness in this world.
We
So
certainly
thank you
do.
all, and I look forward to possibly, meeting you in person once, this whole COVID-19.
And
phenomenon.
congratulations to the new addition to your family.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful. I can't wait to meet your children and your wife
Thank
at
you.
some point in the
Thank you,
future.
Rabbi.
So may she travel safely and make her new home here in Peoria. So
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Peace.
Imam.
Jazakumullahu khairan once again for watching. If you've benefited from this video, make sure you hit that like button, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit our website, stay connected with us on social media. Your kindness and love are much appreciated. Remember us in your du'as. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi